Shalom, welcome. I am Naama Rue, and this is my husband, Harav David Rue, Rabbi Rue. And this is our first try making a video together. Do you want to tell them what we're hoping to do?
In the future, we hope to make a series of videos that do several things. One is short snippets to explain the basic contents of each chapter of the Shulchan Aruch, and there will be other more in-depth classes on various halachic topics like Shemitah, because it's coming up, the sabbatical year, and other things as well. Some will be interesting, some will be boring. Halacha is not always interesting. That's life.
Some will be really short, digestible, and informative. I think that's a big idea. Can you tell us a little bit about Shemitah? I'll just start by saying that since I moved to Israel 2 years ago this summer, now all these other laws apply to me when I am gardening. Certain laws applied before, which I was not aware of. For example, planting different species has to happen a certain distance apart, for example. But that's inside and outside of the land, correct?
More so inside than outside. There are some restrictions outside, but very few.
And now that I'm in the land, when I harvest my food, if I bring it into my home, into my private domain to prepare it, I have to separate a section. Can you tell us about that?
In the Bible, it says that part of the food that you harvest for keeping has to be given to the Kohanim. Another part has to be given to the Levim. Part of that which is taken by the Levim has to be given to the Kohanim. Then in the first, second, fourth, and fifth year of the Shemitah cycle, there is what is called second tithe that has to be set aside, and in the temple times, that portion would have to be taken up in Yerushalayim. Today, it can be redeemed, and we're supposed to save the money, and when the temple's rebuilt, we take that money to Yerushalayim and buy food to eat there. And in the third and sixth year of the Shemitah cycle, it's the poor person's tithe, which can also be redeemed, and that part can be given to tzedakah, or we can hold it until later, and eventually that part would have to be given to the poor.
So just to explain a little bit of what you said in the beginning of that description, that very good overview. When you say we have to separate, I think it's what percent that has to go to the Levim and the Kohanim, those are the priests that serve in the temple on behalf of the Jewish people. And these are laws that only apply to food that is grown within the traditional borders of Israel as described by the Torah. Is that correct?
Or produce that is not yet usable, and it's been harvested but not yet usable, not yet ripe in some way, brought into Eretz Yisrael, and it's called Nigmar Malachtan be'Eretz Yisrael. It's finished in Eretz Yisrael. It's very interesting.
What percentage has to be set aside?
Today, a symbolic percentage of about 1%.
Okay. And what am I doing with the 1% that I set aside?
Kohanim and Levim are not tahor anymore, nor are we 100% sure who the Kohanim and Levim are, and therefore it is set aside to rot. But ideally, if the Kohanim and Levim were tahor, we could give it to them to use. There are some communities that still give it to Kohanim and Levim that have animals, and that can, since we who are impure have handled it, have conceivably made it impure, therefore they Kohanim and Levim can feed it to their animals, which is a benefit to them. In the eulogy that Rav Zolti Zechron Levracha gave for Rav Herzog on his Shloshim, he said that generally when a mature rabbi reaches a certain level and he stays at that level. However, that Rav Herzog was Peretz Chutz La'aretz Shenigmaru Malachtan Be'eretz Yisrael. It's the fruit of abroad that finished developing in Eretz Yisrael, even though he was already a very talented Talmud Chacham and Gadol B'Yisrael. Nonetheless, he continued to grow after he came to Eretz Yisrael through his entire life. So it was as if it was a fruit that wasn't finished, and he was finished in Eretz Yisrael. He became a true product of Eretz Yisrael and not just a product of abroad.
Beautiful, thank you. That's our first video. We're all set for today. We hope you enjoyed it. About going on almost 6 minutes. Probably the future ones will be even shorter. Okay.